like, hey, I'm gonna impose tariffs on you guys if you don't drop some of this new legislation about nature. Europe willingly handed over large parts of its policy to whatever Trump wanted. Trump has gone way too far. I mean, he is clearly the bully. If you give the bully what he wants, the bully will keep on bullying. So, Trump has crossed multiple fucking lines, and it needs to stop. Because last year, in 2025, Europe handed over large part of its sovereignty over to the US when it comes to our nature policy. And that's been sort of like the main thing of why I'm so pissed off right now. Not only Greenland, not only all the other stuff that's been going on in the US. It's been super terrible to watch. But especially Europe handing over so much of its power to the US in order to appease Mr. Trump. I'm mostly pissed off about something that I heard in this forest a few days ago. For some context, this is a sort of like a COVID project that I had. It's an old dead forest, and we're trying to replant it, and eventually it's a lot of fun and it's beautiful, but it's also a lot of work. And I had this organization over a few days ago, and they're gonna help out this year, planting and cutting more trees and replanting a lot of this forest. They asked me, like, hey, do you know some more people with land? And I'm like, yeah, I know some people in France. They might be interested. And the guy's like, yeah, that's complicated. We don't do international spots anymore right now. We're just focusing on the Netherlands. And I'm like, oh, okay, so why? Yeah, Trump tariffs. Like, what? Last year, the EU made a deal in order to stave off some of these Trump tariffs. And the way Trump forced Europe's hand was to say, like, hey, I'm gonna impose tariffs on you guys if you don't drop some of this new legislation about nature. Reforesting law, climate change law, where it basically said, like, hey, if you are a big company, you have to, in Europe, and you do business in Europe, you have to show that in some sort of way you're contributing to solving some of these really big problems that we have. And I mean, the Europeans have destroyed nature in so many ways, and over the past decades, slowly it's been coming back, and it will take many more decades. But through all these replanting programs and these reforesting programs, Europe is trying to at least make a dent. And so Trump said, get rid of all that legislation so that your American companies can just do whatever. And so that dried up a lot of the funding for organizations like the one that visited me here a few days ago. They were dependent on donors, and very many of them were corporate donors that were trying to greenwash themselves. Like, let's be honest, they were trying to greenwash, and it's like, okay, we have to check this box now when it comes to giving money to nature, to European nature. But then after the tariffs, that all dried up. So all these American companies suddenly said, like, yeah, we're just not going to donate. We're going to hold off on that for a while because we don't need to anymore. And so Europe willingly handed over large parts of its policy to whatever Trump wanted. And now, now that Trump actually wants to take European land, it is high time to reclaim back our own nature. It becomes especially fraught if we're trying to do some biodiversity recovery here. There should not be a rule that says, like, yeah, but Trump wants his CEOs of these big companies to make more money. One of the directives I'm talking about is the CSDDD. It's the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. It's one of the main drivers. It was one of the main drivers for biodiversity restoration and reforestation of Europe. And that has now been cancelled, so you can go on the side of the European Union and see that last year in August a new deal was made in order to address the concerns of the Americans. And so this was cancelled. And then there's even a share to X button on this website. Like, can you... is it even more obvious? Like, even the European Union is like, share this to X. It's...
Nearly half of the EU's land surface is covered with forests.
One of the major issues is that Europeans have planted a lot of monocultures, and when a drought hit in 2017 and 18, a lot of these died because these fir trees were not really meant for this latitude. So now they're being replaced with more biodiverse forests. It's the exact same thing that we're doing at our plot of land. So companies emitting a lot of CO2 were asked to join in these programs, which kind of benefit everyone. Also, the EU wanted to make sure that the timber coming into the EU was sourced sustainably.
The EU had these new directives saying that any timber that the EU buys has to come from a sustainable source. So that meant that if an American farmer was clear-cutting land in order to create pasture, the EU would just simply not buy that timber. It's just the rules of the market. It's like, if you want to do business here, you just have to kind of obey our rules, that's all. That also was gotten rid of. This deal had been made, yet hasn't come into full effect yet. And I did read over the past 24 hours that some European lawmakers are now calling for this whole deal to be off. Because Trump has gone way too far. I mean, he is clearly the bully. If you give the bully what he wants, the bully will keep on bullying. He will keep going. And enough is enough. This shit needs to be done. Especially because he now wants to take Greenland. I mean, it is beyond ridiculous, of course, that the USA is now trying to act as some European colonizer in the 19th century, pretty much stating like, hey, this is our land now. Especially because it was the USA itself that built the New World Order after the Second World War in order to prevent other countries from doing something like this. So then Russia started, and for a while it seemed like the US was, well, not taking it seriously 10 years ago, but at least was taking it seriously 4 years ago, when the Ukraine war started, but now has become the colonizer itself. The Europeans don't have that many levers to pull. Like, if it would come down to a head-to-head with the USA militarily, I would say obviously the Europeans wouldn't win. Yet we have a gigantic market. We have economic power. We still sell more to the US than the US sells to us. Meaning, the Americans do want our products. We don't really want American products. American products are very often shitty, of lower quality than European products. The US is very innovative, so they will be the first ones to come up with a certain technology. But then over the course of the years, the Europeans will improve on it and set higher standards, actually. And nowadays, if it's about cars or if it's about specialty like medical devices or whatnot, even a lot of medication, it now comes from Europe. And we don't want cheap, cheap, unregulated stuff from the USA. And it might be that Donald Trump is kind of pissed off about it and wants to force American products down our throats. And we do not want that. It is part of the reason why he has imposed all these tariffs. But now that he's actively threatening Europe with invasion, doing things the hard way, we need to use every tool in our toolbox that we have in order to stop this. And I would say day fucking one. Stop selling out our nature here in Europe to Donald Trump and American companies. Claim that back. The deal is off. And I would say go nuclear in an economic sense on this. I would not say let's let France and Great Britain launch any of those nukes. Let's not do that yet. For a little bit of context, I studied American history. I lived there for 5 years in the US. Now I've been back in Europe for, let's say, more than 10 years. And I didn't see this coming at all. But the US is a bully, has become the bully, and the bully will only listen to force. Obviously, the people around Trump are not impressed with any sort of like appeasing European stance, the soft approach, the conciliatory tone that someone like Mark Rutte has, the Secretary General of NATO. He's the former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, so here in this country we know him very well. That is his style. He was hired actually to keep Trump on board within NATO. But the way things are going, NATO is being blown up by the US president himself. I've seen it been described as the biggest relinquishing of power since the fall of the Soviet Union. What the US is doing to itself is just shooting itself in the foot, completely dismantling the rules-based order that it built itself, and that has kept the world relatively peaceful for the past 80 years, except a few wars that were also started by the US, so maybe we should have seen this coming. But the point is that the Europeans have become way too reliant on the US because we thought we were allies. So even if it would come to a head-to-head militarily between the US and the EU, there are many weapons that the EU has in its arsenal that kind of need permission from the Americans to be able to be shot. So once push comes to shove, the Europeans will try to push a button and nothing will happen because the Americans are saying, no, you can't shoot us. So that's fucked. Our media has been taken over by the Americans. Our military is largely dependent on the Americans. And yes, of course, we're economically dependent on the Americans. Pretty safe to say that the free world now consists of Canada, the EU, some parts of Asia or Oceania, and that's it. A large part of the Republican Party has just completely been taken over by conspiracy thought and dominating over governing and just vengeance over what, trans people or whatever. Like, of course, the Democrats made so many problems, and the Democrats have always been afraid to really mention real problems or have become too elitist. I agree with all of that. But what's happening currently is the complete unraveling of the United States and the international world order. And Europe needs to start acting like it is. I see some signs of it happening. But I especially wanted to bring some focus to the fact that we also sold out our nature to US companies. And that needs to stop. And see, this is what we have here in Europe. We have a train running through a forest. It's like a 3-minute walk. For a little bit of context about this channel, I used to do a lot about drug policy on this channel, which was also a great example of America forcing down its morals down the throats of the entire world. It started with opium and then went on to all kinds of drugs that gave us the drug war. And that was very slow, it was very subtle, there were very many arguments to be made. But now you can see it in, maybe that was a war in slow motion. What's happening now is like it's the same dynamic, but then it's like the brute force of the United States being rammed down everybody's throats. Then this channel lay dormant for a while because I was in multiple identity crises, trying to figure out what to do with this channel to see what the impact was. I had a lot of life happen as well, and then this thing where I'm actually at, it's trying to build a food forest here, and it's kind of an old project that started during COVID. There were all these dead fir trees. You can kind of see one over here that's still standing, and the other one next to it is dead. This used to be a Christmas tree plantation. You can still see a bunch here, those huge trees. And during COVID, I chopped down all of them, 250 of them, which is fun. Some of them are still here. We're still trying to clean this up, but it's a lot of work. And I started planting some stuff. And then I got a kid. And then my relationship broke down. That also happened. And I was trying to figure out what to do next. And I'm still trying to figure that out. But what's been happening over the past months and years, I lost so much faith in the United States over the past decade. And I've really sensed like this new European identity coming up, especially after the war in Ukraine started. That's gone way more rapidly than I think anybody could have imagined, that forming of European identity, because we all felt Dutch or Danish or German or Spanish or Greek, and there was a lot of economic uncertainty about a decade ago, where Northern Europe was pumping a lot of money towards Southern Europe, and it also caused some animosity, but I think that's mostly gone. I think a lot of Europeans are united, even though we all speak different languages, and here I am speaking English to you on an English language platform owned by the Americans. So we have a lot of work to do as Europeans, and I renamed this channel from Controlled Substance to my own name, so that I can comment more broadly on the things that matter to me. I studied American history, I studied journalism, spent a bunch of years as sort of like a tech bro. I mean, I still know how to code, and been online since I was young, and the world keeps on changing and I have to change with it. That's what I was thinking. So shit has been pissing me off so much that I would gladly scream into this void, because I do think that we're screaming into the void. The only thing that's real is that star over there, our sun. Everything you will see on this planet will eventually evaporate anyway, just like the sun will die. But us humans have better things to do than fucking war with one another. I think there's a moon mission coming up. I'm also still hosting a Dutch show on astronomy and space exploration. So that's also pretty cool. I've been following that a lot, and that's the America we love, right? It's NASA. It's going boldly to places where none have gone before, whether this be culturally or technologically, or even, going to the moon. That's the America we like. But then now it's become all about planting flags. Even Elon Musk went from like we need to go to Mars in order to save the human species. It went to like how amazing it would be to plant an American flag on Mars. Fuck that. Fuck that. It's just a peeing contest. Sad boyish behavior. Stupid. So I wish we can get a bunch of people together who still are in this for love, for exploration, for science. That would be nice, instead of this shit show that Americans have brought upon themselves by electing horrible leaders, generally. Still have a lot of American friends, and I feel deeply for them. But politically, it's a shit show. So hi Europe, hi rest of the world. Let's save our nature. Let's take care of our animals. Let's take care of our plants. Let's take care of each other. And fuck Donald Trump.